Ladies and gentlemen, I take pride in introducing the greatest show on earth.
Hi, everybody. This is Scott Gordon, and welcome to the Uncle Floyd podcast number 85. I'm sitting here in the studio at about 2:30 in the afternoon on Friday, August 7th, 2026. And I got a bunch of questions from you guys that I'm about to answer. If you'd like to get a question in here for next week's podcast, just email it to ufpodcast@sge-inc.com. That's ufpodcast@sge-inc.com. And that will get it to me. I'll print it out and I'll read it here next week. We got a lot of good stuff. We got some music from Uncle Floyd at the end of this show, the very final thing. We always go out with a tune by Uncle Floyd. And we got a lot of talk by me answering your questions. So let's listen to the end of the theme by the Vivino Brothers Band, and I'll be right back. Okay, I just want to remind everybody that the questions we answer here are about any possibility of subject from entertainment. The Uncle Floyd Show is the basis of this. I started this with Uncle Floyd while he was sick in the recovery center from his stroke, continuing it in his memory. So we'd like to answer any kind of question about the Uncle Floyd Show, but we'd also be glad to answer questions about any type of question you have due to the entertainment industry. Any kind of technical questions. I have a lot of experience in audio, video, stagecraft, acting, doing comedy, falling down a lot, and other certain arts of performing for you. So we're going to start with a question from Dennis DeLeo. Years ago, I heard Floyd talk about how far back that show business ran in his lineage. Could you share that ancestry again on both parents' sides? Well, I can't split it up with both parents' sides. I just know what the parents did and some of the history of the family. Floyd's father, Jerry, was an incredible bebop trumpet player. He was actually in the Army band when he was in the service, and he played with a lot of orchestras in the local area. His cousin ran one of the ballrooms, actually the biggest ballroom in Paterson, New Jersey. His cousin also wrote music for Lou Monte, wrote music for Louis Prima. The biggest hit with Louis Prima was a song called Pizza and Beer, which I'm sure you can find on the internet if you look, as Frank Viv was the writer. Jerry Vivino, his father, was a great trumpet player. Of course, you know his brothers, Jerry Jr., or Jerry, I don't know if the middle name is different or not. I've never really gotten into that with him. But he's a great saxophone player. You remember him from the Conan O'Brien Orchestra. Jimmy, the youngest brother, is an incredible guitarist, a great blues guitarist, and in general all-around good guitarist and songwriter and arranger, and he's done all sorts of stuff, and you can find him playing around anywhere. Floyd's mother was an incredible pianist. I got to his house one day. I was going to see Floyd, and I hear piano music coming out, and it's a lot more serious than Floyd usually plays. Who the heck is playing the piano? I thought it might be Floyd playing something with a classical idea to it. He was rehearsing for the show. I don't know. But I walk in, and it's Floyd's mom playing the piano, and she was amazing. She was a concert-quality pianist. Now, the family goes back a long, long way. I think the great-great-grandfather may have performed for the Garibaldis in Italy, and they were entertainers the entire thing. So that's about the best I can do, Dennis. I wish I knew more information. I'd love to get Jerry or Jimmy or one of those guys in here and do something like that. Talk about that. This is from Trumpetman66. I wish I knew your name. It says, hey, buddy. So I guess he knows me. Who was General Delivery? How many times did General Delivery appear? Who were the targets of General Delivery, and when did they last appear? General Delivery was a character Floyd did, roughly based on the character that George C. Scott did for Patton, for the movie Patton. He was just a gruff general. And he was in charge of the Uncle Floyd Show troops when we went to war with Star Trek people and with Mike Botta, the columnist from The Record. Or was he the Record, or was he the Patterson paper, the Passaic News? I mean, he might have been the Passaic News. I'm not sure. Mike Botta. That was General Delivery, and he appeared very frequently on the show, as a matter of fact. Eddie McGarry says, some of Floyd's characters seem to have faded out during the run of the show. Most notably, to me anyway, was Rocky Rock and Roll. Was it lack of audience appreciation? Lack of hair? What do you know about his disappearance? Thanks as always. Eddie, what we did was we scheduled the characters according to what we assumed was the popularity. For what we saw was the popularity. People would write in or draw pictures, and the more Rocky Rock and Roll pictures that came up, the more times Rocky Rock and Roll would appear. And when people started to not show interest in Rocky Rock and Roll, that's when Floyd cut back on his appearances. It wasn't the fact that he was losing his hair. He put a wig on for several of them. When people wrote in for Chuck Little Hat, Chuck Little Hat appeared. When people stopped writing in for Chuck Little Hat moved back in the lineup. We actually had a small idea of what we were doing. Very small. From Anthony, I came across a newspaper ad from 1982 with Floyd doing a benefit at Camp Moore, Elks, with John Kerr. I don't think you mean John Kerr, Anthony. I think you mean Jim Kerr. He says, he was the host of WNJM Channel 50 Super Bingo Show on Saturday nights. Loved the show. Do you know or remember him? If you do, what is he up to nowadays? I really think you mean Jim Kerr, Anthony. I don't think you mean John. Jim Kerr right now is the Rock and Roll Morning Show host on Q104.3 in the New York area. So you can find him there. He's still the host of the radio. He's still on the air. From Michael Lepowski, I remember being on a podcast. The weather was bad and Floyd couldn't make it to the studio. So co-host and I chatted for over an hour on the show about how Floyd should get on his cell phone. Did Floyd have a problem with technology? Oh, boy, you have no idea. I really think if they looked up the word Luddite in the dictionary, that's spelled Luddite for those of you who want to look it up, or Google, you'll probably see Floyd's picture. Floyd, all the time I've known him, never had a cell phone, never had anything fancy. He was totally confused by a lot of the technology. As a matter of fact, the last apartment he had, his phone was a phone that hung on the wall in his kitchen that was hooked to a physical phone answering device. He was totally old school. There's a lot of people like that. He wanted an old car. He didn't like anything fancy in the car. He listened to 78 RPM records, as we all know. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to tell you a story about Floyd. I've told this story before. Floyd was at home, and I called him up to discuss something that we were going to do on the show. And he answered the phone like, really, hello. Oh, you're in a mood. What's the matter, Floyd? He says, I've been stuck in the house for 3 days. 3 days I haven't been out of this house. I said, what do you mean you've been stuck in the house for 3 days? He said, the garage door won't open. I said, Floyd, that's a simple thing in the world. Chances are it's the breaker is tripped and you just have to go and reset it. He says, what's a breaker? I said, you know that big gray box you have in the basement with all the switches in it? He says, oh, no, I won't touch that. I'm not going to touch. Ralph, Lisa's dad is coming over, and I'll have him look at that. I said, still, you don't have to be stuck in the house. Just go in the garage to where the garage door is, pull the emergency handle, and you can lift the door up. He says, what's an emergency handle? I said, that's the white rope that hangs down with the red handle on it. Just pull it, and it'll release the door. He says, oh, is that what that was? I said, what do you mean was? He said, Lisa pushed a button one day, it hit me in the head, so I cut it off. All right, that's one story. I'll tell you another story, too. Channel 68, when we were at the Wiss Scissor building, which was 390 West Market Street, West Market on the corner of Central Avenue in Newark, had a lot of stuff that Floyd never saw before. It was technologically up to date the entire time we were there. And one of the things that they had was they had audio switches in the bathrooms because we used to leave the lights in the bathrooms on when we left. And they didn't like that. So they put these audio lights in. They were just coming out at that time, where when you open the door, the sound of your hand hitting the door would turn the lights on. The lights would stay on for a certain amount of time. And if there was no noise in the bathroom, they would shut off. So every night before the show started, before we started taping, Floyd would go into the bathroom and do what we referred to as the Vivino purge. He would be in there for a while. And he was sitting in there when they installed these lights, and I'm standing outside. I'm getting a drink at the water fountain, and all of a sudden I hear from inside, "Hey!" And I went, what the heck was that? And I listened for a second and waiting for more action, and a few minutes later I hear, "Who turned off the light?" I said, this is interesting. So later on that night, I went into the bathroom, and I'm in there, and the light goes off, and I went, "Hey," and the light came back on. Immediately, I knew what it was. So I go into the studio, and I'm telling everybody else in the cast, hey, there's a switch in the bathroom that the light comes on when it hears sound, and it goes off if it doesn't hear sound. Floyd has no idea what this is. So for several weeks, we would stand outside the bathroom and wait. And all of a sudden, halfway through, you'd hear, "Hey!" And then a few minutes later, "Who turned out the lights?" And eventually it came to, "Charlie, are you messing around?" Of course, he didn't use the word messing. We would sit out there and giggle. He'd come out and he'd be fuming when he came out of the bathroom, so angry. And we're all standing there and he's looking at all of us. One night, he was so upset by this, he went into the studio and he could not do Oogie's voice. He couldn't get it. So finally, I said to him, "Look, Floyd, let me show you what the problem is." I took him into the bathroom and I said, "Just don't say anything for a few minutes." And we stood there in the quiet and the lights went off. And I went, "Lights," and the lights came back on. So he says, "What the heck is that?" I said, "It's the switch." And I showed him the switch with the little microphone on it. I said, "It hears you and it turns the lights on. If it doesn't hear anything, it shuts the lights off." From that moment on, every time he went into the bathroom before we started taping for the Vivino Purge, he would be in there and we'd hear every once in a while, "I'm still in here. Don't get dark." And that went on for the entire rest of the time we were at the Wiss Scissor building for WWHT and for syndication. I think Floyd had a little bit of trouble with technology. From Jason Nicholas, Jefferson Township, New Jersey. Have you or anybody on the show ever done any animation voiceover work? If so, what shows? If not, what animated character do you think would be fun to be the voice for? I do a lot of voiceover work. That's one of the things I do for a living. I have a voiceover business. As a matter of fact, if you go to scottgordonvoice.com, you'll find my website, and there's some samples there, some stuff I've done, and you can check that out. Some of the other guys did. Dave Bird, Floyd, and I did commercials back in the 70s for different records and things, for Willie Nelson, Rockpile. We did a few things. But the most notable thing that you can probably find is there's a Disney Marvel crossover animated series called Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur was on for a couple of seasons. And if you look up Season 1, Episode 7, titled Moon Girl's Day Off, Floyd is actually in that singing a song. Go up to YouTube and search for Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur and look at Season 1, Episode 7, or Disney Plus. It's probably on Disney Plus if you have that, and you can watch that. I also have done a lot of radio stuff, and this question's about that from Jeff Clementi. I know I'm not the only one who's been really enjoying the Gordon and Rogue clips. They're brilliant. Can you tell us a little bit about Rogue and how you began working together? Well, I met Rogue at Ken's Magic Shop. She came in one day with her daughter. Her daughter, I think, who was maybe about 3 or 4 at the time. And they came in, and the daughter wanted to buy some rubber spiders and stuff. So I was interested, and I talked to her and found out she had a great sense of humor, and we became friends. She actually became really good friends with my wife, Diane. We used to go and do gaming, play Dungeons and Dragons with her and her husband. We became friends, and I had a chance to do a radio show. And I said, hey, why don't you and I do a radio show? This is when Floyd was on with the Italian American Serenade on WGHT in Pompton Lakes. So we started doing a show that ran for about 4 or 5 years in Pompton Lakes, and we syndicated it to a couple other stations across the country called Remember When. And we did some crazy stuff on that. We did some sketch stuff that she and I both wrote. And that's what Jeff is talking about here. Here's a little thing that we did on one of the shows back in the 90s.
Car Dealer Service Center, how may I help you?
I'd like to speak to the parts department, please.
Who may I say is calling?
This is Fred Krellman.
Mr. Krellman? Didn't you just buy your new Zoom 5 sports sedan this morning?
Yeah, but I need the parts department.
Their line is busy right now. While you're holding, what happened that you would need the parts department?
Well, you see, right after lunch, I was sitting at a traffic light and I had the car end for nothing.
I see.
Then this guy with a Zoom 4 pulls up right next to me at the light and starts revving his engine.
So what did you do?
Well, I did what anyone would have. I revved mine back at him.
Okay.
Then he revved his again and gave me the thumbs up sign.
Well, what did you do when the light turned green?
Well, he screeched his tires and took off, so I put my Zoom 5 in L for leap.
So you're both now going down the road, right?
Yeah, and this guy's getting way ahead of me, so I think I have a Zoom 5. I should be doing better than a Zoom 4.
Well, what did you do?
Well, I decided to escalate. I put it in D for dig out.
I see. Did you catch up with him?
Well, I started to.
And he got ahead of you again?
Uh-huh. So I went to finish him off.
You pulled a gun?
Oh, no, I put it in off for race, and now I need the parts department.
All right, so Jeff also asks, would it be possible to someday interview her on the podcast? She doesn't live in the area anymore. She's got her own life. She has a daughter and a son. She's not here, and she's got other things going on in her life. We're still somewhat in touch. And do you think it's in the realm of possibility that you'll work together again? Everything's a possibility in this crazy business, Jeff. So I can't say yes or no that we're going to work together again. I'd love to work together again with her. We had a lot of fun doing that stuff. From Fred Velez, of the characters and bits created by other cast members, were there some that were your particular favorites and that you personally enjoyed watching and or loved participating in? Fred, that's such a strange question to me because of the fact that as an actor, I enjoy doing what I do. The characters that I have interacting with other characters, Don the Drunk and Charlie as a Drunk were hysterical. That was a lot of fun doing. Working with Dave in the Flojo sketches, with Weenie and all the stuff that we did. It's just magic working with somebody like that. When you get along, you get along. And I can't say that I liked any of their characters more than anyone else, and than any other character. So, it's a question that I really can't answer, and I don't think any actor can answer. The favorite is the one you're doing at the time, or you can't put it over. That's all there is to it. From Phil Scardilli of Spotswood, New Jersey. The 16-minute plus piece where it was just Muggsy talking to Oogie, was that done because the show wasn't taping that day, a one-off, or as a special? I have never seen that particular thing. That was Muggsy. He did that at the OBC studios where he was working part-time for Pat Marucki, who ran the studio. He and Floyd just did it one day, and it happened. I can't say why it was done other than just to have some fun for Muggsy to get some practice with the cameras or whatever. There was no cast laughing at it. It was different. Yeah, it was just Floyd and Muggsy. I don't know what to tell you on that. Fred Velez again. Hey, Scott, did you see the Zips comic? I messaged it to you. I hope it comes out clear. I must say there's a resemblance. Yeah, I'm familiar with Zitz Comics. And Zitz Comics has, I think it's Jeremy. Yeah, Jeremy's the kid. And I really think it's a lot of the cartoonists who basically work generally in the New York area, because that's where all the syndicators are and everything else. I know you can work at home when you do that, but that's where all the syndication offices are for the cartoons, King Features and all that. And some are in Chicago, some are in Los Angeles, I know. Don't send me email telling me where they all are. That particular one, the character does look a lot like me. I would not be surprised if Jim Borgman, who is the one who actually does the art on that, watches the show. A lot of people do, and a lot of the artists do, because they get a kick out of what we do. Jerry Scott writes the sketches for Zitz. From Albert Arnone. No, I pronounced that wrong. From Al Amone of Valley Stream, New York. Scott, do you really like toast? That's a thing that happened once. It happened once. I forgot my wallet. I left my wallet home. I didn't even have my driver's license. And we're finishing up at West Orange, New Jersey, at the old spooky house, Channel 68. I think this was back in the WTVG days, just after the BTB days were over. And we went down to the diner in Orange, in West Orange. And we were going to have something for breakfast. We finished up, it's late, we're going to have something to eat. We go in there, and I realize I don't have any money. I had about 85 cents in my pocket. With that, I could get a cup of coffee at that time. So I ordered a cup of coffee. Everybody else is ordering steak and eggs and scrambled eggs and fried eggs and bacon and French toast and stuff like that. And with all the egg orders, toast comes. So I turned to Muggsy. I said, Muggsy, you going to eat that toast? He said, no, you can have it. Dave says, oh, here, you can have mine too. And Floyd says, here, I have mine. I ended up with a stack of toast in front of me. So I ate it. I ate all the toast. And after that, they started calling me Toasty. I eventually got on the van that I was driving at the time. I got the vanity license plate, Toasty, which I still have the plates. That became a running gag for the entire length of the show. Mr. Toast, Toastbusters, when Ghostbusters came out. That's just what happened. So I hope that answers your questions, folks. Please send in more questions to me. That's ufpodcast@sge-inc.com, ufpodcast@sge-inc.com. And also, Tuesday night at 8, we have a date. At 8 p.m. Eastern, every Tuesday night, I run a live stream show that you can watch. A full show and some clips from the Uncle Floyd Show in the heyday. And it's at theunclefloydshow.tv. That's theunclefloydshow.tv. Will take you right to it. There's a Facebook page for it. It's called This Was the Uncle Floyd Show. You can check that out if you'd like to. And we have a great time. We have a heck of a good time doing it. So please, write in, come to the show on Tuesday night at 8. This was the Uncle Floyd Show at theunclefloydshow.tv. That costs $5 to come in and watch. That $5 and the tips that people give us there help pay for this, help pay for that show. That's what keeps us going. It's not cheap to do this stuff, folks. Believe me, paying for the websites, paying for the storage and the distribution of the podcast, it's not cheap. So please, come to that show, help us out. If you can't come to that show, there's a link in the description of this show, where on whatever podcast service you're on, that will take you to where you can give a tip for this show. That's easy. Please come do it. Have a great time. Remember, the most important thing to any show is you guys, the audience. Without you, this would not happen. This would be ridiculous for me to be sitting here doing this without you listening to it. So please, tell your friends, let them know about this. Have them come over and listen to this. As Floyd always said, he was so touched by you guys remembering and coming and listening to this and coming to the Tuesday night at 8 show. This was the Uncle Floyd Show. He loved the fact that you remembered and you still wanted to listen and laugh along with us. Right now, we're going to close out until next week. We'll see you next week again with a song by Uncle Floyd, just for your enjoyment and for me to sit back, listen, and relax to Floyd playing the piano. This is Scott Gordon. This was the Uncle Floyd Podcast, and we'll see you next time.
Could do. Anybody seen my gal? Got a turned up nose and turned down hose, and she never had no other beaux. Anybody seen my gal? If you run into a 5'2" all covered with fur, a diamond ring and those fancy things, bet your life that that ain't her. But could she love? Could she coo? Could she coo? Has anybody seen my gal?
This program was produced in the studios of Scott Gordon Enterprises, Incorporated in Paramus, New Jersey.